Hello, students. Today we'll be continuing the lesson The Best Advice That I Ever Had, written by Mrs Vijayalakshmi Pandit. So, today we'll start from the 11th paragraph. 1 to 10 was already done in the last video. If you have not watched it, please watch it. So, we'll continue with the lesson now. This small gesture was the beginning of a significant change in me. A year and a half later, I was in New York as a leader of the Indian delegation to the United Nations. Important to us was India's complaint regarding the treatment of people of Indian origin in South Africa. Harsh things were said by both sides. I resented the manner in which my opponents made personal attacks harmful to India's prestige and to mine. I struck back with the same sharp weapon. In the 11th paragraph, she describes a small gesture. What is gesture? Action. So, what is that action that has changed her? That was the beginning of her changes. What was that? The meeting of her family members. So, here, after that, after a year and a half, she was in New York and she was working as the leader of the Indian delegation to the United Nations. What was important for her at that time was the India's complaint regarding the treatment of people of Indian origin in South Africa. There was discrimination. So harsh things were said by both sides, that is the Indians as well as South Africans, both the whites as well as the browns, that is the Indians. So harsh things were said, very rude things were said. So I resented the manner in which my opponents made personal attacks. What is resented? Resented is she disliked it. What is resented? Dislike. So here she disliked all those personal attacks that was harmful to India's prestige and also to her prestige. Since she was an Indian, obviously we can't hear anything bad about our country. So she was not liking that manner at that time. I struck back with the same sharp weapon. So she too started being rude. Then, after a distressing duel of words, I suddenly thought of Gandhiji. Would he approve? To him, means were as important as the end. In the long run, perhaps more important. What if we succeeded in getting our resolution passed by questionable tactics that injured our self respect? After the fight of words, she suddenly thought of Gandhiji and she thought whether Gandhiji would approve of this fight that we are having at present. To him, means were as important as the end. It was not how you get it, how fast you get it. For him, time with patience. He was a person of non violence. She started thinking, how would Gandhiji react in this situation? What if we succeeded in getting our resolution passed without injuring our self respect? So she's thinking, or she started thinking, she came back to her senses and she started thinking, if instead of fighting with each other, can't we solve this problem in a good way instead of being very rude and rash with others? Before going to bed that night, I resolved that, come what might, no word of mine would be lightly used in the UN. From then on, I lifted the debate back to where it belonged, refusing to retaliate to personal attacks or to score a cheap point. Our opponents met us on the new level, and from then we argued the case on its merits. So before going to bed that night, she thought and she decided that whatever other people say, she won't be rude enough. She won't be rude, she'll be kind towards everyone, and from then on, she lifted the debate back to where it belonged. Instead of giving a personal attack to it, they were coming back to the debate, and it was point wise, not something related to personal life. So she was refusing to retaliate to personal attacks. So our opponents met us on the new level, and from then they argued the case on its merits. That is, they took only the advantages and disadvantages of that problem instead of going it personally. Before leaving the committee room on the last day, I went up and spoke to the leader of the opposing delegation. I have come to ask you to forgive me if I have hurt you by any word or action in this debate. So, on the final day, before leaving the committee room, she went up and spoke to the leader of the opposing delegation. She went and spoke to the opposing person and she said, I have come to ask you to forgive me if I have hurt you by any word or action in this debate. So, after the entire debate was done, she went to him or her and she asked for forgiveness. In case I have hurt you by my word or any action, I am sorry. He shook my hand warmly and said, I have no complaint. It was good to feel right with him, but even better to feel right with myself. Once more, Gandhiji's advice had saved me from myself. So, what did the opposing delegation do? He shook his hand and he said, I have no complaint. So, he was good with it. So, it was good to feel right with him. That is, it was good that we did not have any differences. And more than that, she felt better. Like she did not have any guiltiness inside her. She cleared it out. So once more, Gandhiji's advice had saved her from her own self. His words have helped me retain perspective even in small matters. Many women, I imagine, share with me a recurring nightmare. Someone important to you is coming to dine. The guests have arrived. It is time to eat, but there is no dinner. You wake, perspiring, relieved to find it is only a dream. So, once again, his words have helped her retain perspective. What is perspective? It's a point of view. So, even in small matters, she knows what is right and wrong. So, many women, I imagine, that is, she imagines that many women share with her a recurring nightmare. It's somewhat similar. Maybe this one nightmare may happen with the other women also. That is, someone important to you is coming to have dinner with you. The guests have come and it is time for dinner. It is time to eat. But there is no dinner at home. Then immediately you wake up and you are relieved. You are like happy. Okay, it was just a dream. But recently, it really happened to me. My guest of honor, the Prime Minister of Great Britain and Lady Eden, could hardly have been more important to me, High Commissioner for India in the United Kingdom. I had planned everything meticulously, from the menu to the color scheme of the flowers and the candles. When the guest had arrived and drinks had been passed twice, I signaled the butler to announce dinner. But still we waited. When for the third time drinks came round, I excused myself and ran downstairs to the kitchen. But here, for Vijayalakshmi Pandit, it was not only a dream, but it had happened in real. The guest of honor, and who was the guest of honor? Prime Minister of the Great Britain and Lady Eden. Both had come and they were both important because she was the High Commissioner for India in United Kingdom at that time. And they had come and she was the only one who had planned everything meticulously. That is, very carefully she had planned everything. The menu, the color scheme of the flowers, like how the flowers should be in what color, the candles, the entire arrangement. She had planned it and everything was done. And when the guest had arrived, drinks had been passed twice. So in the beginning they were passing the drinks. It had been passed twice, and after that she signaled the butler. Who is the butler? The waiter. So she just signaled to him to bring the dinner. And even after telling, the dinner was not served. So they all were waiting. When for the third time drinks came round, she excused herself and she ran down to the kitchen. So she already signaled the waiter, but still the food has not arrived. So she excused from the audience, the guest. So she went and saw what was wrong in the kitchen. It presented a shocking sight. In one corner stood a frightened little kitchen maid, in another the housekeeper. At the table sat my cook, waving a ladle and singing, beating time with his foot. His eyes were glazed and he was far away in some other sphere. The table was littered with pieces of chicken. My knees felt too weak to support me, but I asked in as normal a voice as I could command, "Why isn't the dinner ready?" So when she went to the kitchen, she was shocked. In one corner was the kitchen maid and she was little frightened, she was scared. And in the another corner there was the housekeeper. And at the table, the cook was sitting at the table. He was waving a ladle. What is a ladle? It's a large sized spoon. So he was using that. He was just waving that spoon and singing, and he was beating time with his foot. That is, he was just beating up his foot to the floor. He was just wasting time there. His eyes were glazed. What is glazed? Dull, blank. So he was just sitting there and he was far away in some other sphere. That is, he was just thinking about something. He was lost in his own world. The table was littered with piece of chicken. So that table was set with some pieces of chicken. Now her knees felt too weak to support. Like she was angry. She wanted to shout at them. Like, what is happening? But instead of shouting, she relaxed herself and in a calm way she asked them, "Why isn't the dinner ready?" "But it is ready, madam," my cook chanted. "All ready. Everybody sit down, sit down." I was furious. It was on the tip of my tongue to say, "Get out, you are dismissed," when I thought of the counsel that had calmed me so many times. If I lost control, I would only hurt myself. So, what did the cook reply? "But it is ready, madam. All ready. Everybody sit down, sit down." He is lost in his own world. He's saying the dinner is ready. Call everybody. Let's sit and have. So she was furious. She got very furious. She was very angry. It was on the tip of her tongue. This is a phrase there. Tip of my tongue. That is, she wanted to tell it. It was almost there. Like, get out, you're dismissed. That is, you're fired from here. She wanted to tell it, but then she calmed down. She became cool. And then she, instead of losing control, she remembered what Gandhiji had told. She remembers what Gandhiji had told. So she did not want to hurt herself. That's why she kept quiet and she calmed herself. I pulled myself together. "Let's get something on the table," I said. Everyone pitched in. The food served wasn't quite what the menu described, but when I told my guest what had happened, there was a chorus of surprise. "If this is what your cook gives you when he's drunk," someone exclaimed, "what must he provide sober?" She pulled herself together, that is, she calmed herself. And then she said, "Let's get something on the table because we have to serve something. Almost the guests have come. They are waiting for the dinner." Everyone pitched in, that is, everyone came all together and the food was served. Now, the food that was served was actually not according to the menu that was described, but when she told her guest what had happened, there was a chorus of surprise. That is, everyone were surprised, they were happy and they were shocked. They didn't know how to react. And they said in that guest, one person says, "If this is what your cook gives you when he's drunk," that is, if this is the food that your cook is serving you when he is drunk, what must he provide when he is sober? So what is sober? Opposite of drunk. That is, a person who is not drunk. So he is telling, if he is cooking so good when he is drunk, then I imagine how nice he will cook when he is not drunk. The relief in my laughter must have sounded a little hysterical. My perspective restored, I realized that a dinner party, however important, is not the pivot of existence. To retain a sense of proportion is as important as being able to keep one's heart free from hatred. For all of us, no matter what our work, the advice Gandhiji gave me is meaningful. No one can harm you but yourself. So there was a sense of relief in her laughter. So she started laughing, and it sounded a little hysterical. What is hysterical? Crazy. Then my perspective restored. That is, she came back, she became normal. And she realized that a dinner party, however important, is not the pivot of existence. What is pivot of existence? It's not the main cause or it's not the center of existence. You don't live for a dinner party. You have something else in your life. So, to retain a sense of proportion is as important as being able to keep one's heart free from hatred. So, what is more important? You have to keep your heart free of hatred. You shouldn't have any jealousy towards anyone. For all of us, no matter what work you do or wherever you are, Gandhiji's advice is very meaningful. Not only for Vijayalakshmi Pandit, but also for people like us, to everyone in this world. That is, what was the advice that Gandhiji had given? No one can harm you but your own self.